Better buckle up, my friend, because it's time for your weekly dose of thundering V8 supercars, American off-road monsters, all-action Australian rallying, plus the spectacular Bankpin Off-Road Championship. On the Limit is proudly presented by O'Hagan's. To be sure, you can almost taste the action.
Highlights of the Baberspan 500, round one of the Bankpin Off-Road Championship are proudly brought to you by Bankpin, Ford, Nissan and Toyota, a unique motorsport partnership. There were some new arrivals when the Bankpin Off-Road Championship got underway with the Baberspan 500. Veteran Kasikutsi and Russo proudly showed off their newborn daughter Jessica, while Brandon Harkis from Bat Racing also unveiled his new arrival.
We're fanatical about weight. We don't like anything heavy on our car. We've used the best products we could, bought from America, put on a local chassis. We're using a 3.5-litre aluminium block V6, which makes 300 horsepower. The car weighs 925 kilograms, so it's very good power to weight ratio. We've got 22 inches of travel all the way around, and we use a 5-speed Mendiola gearbox.
The time trial, now known as the prologue, got underway in hot, dry and extremely dusty conditions. And first off the line were reigning production vehicle champions Camille de Villiers and Francois Jordan in the new-look Nissan hardbody. Crews had had a 4-month layoff and would take a while to settle into a rhythm. The Nissan hardbodies had been extensively rebuilt during the off-season, and changes to the suspension dramatically improved the handling of the V6-powered super trucks. This badly marked river crossing didn't prove to be a problem for the Nissan pair. Former champions on 2 and 4 wheels, Neil Woolridge and Kenny Skoldhammer, were caught out and went straight instead of left and almost got the Ford Racing Ranger bogged down in the river. Franz Czepek Sr. and Scott Abraham's Jeep was withdrawn from the race. Next up were Avi Reneke and Robin Houghton, and they too misread the route and ploughed into the river. The Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser sucked water into the airbox and would take a while to get going again. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek got it right in the second Nissan hardbody super truck, but the unlucky Reneke was having a tough time trying to clear the engine of water. Cliff Barker won the opening round of the 2001 season in the BMW M3-powered Barker Performance Products Land Rover and was hoping to do the same in the Baberspan 500, first round of the 2002 Bankpin Off-Road Championship. Marius Boersma in the ex-Barker V8-powered Land Rover was another driver who misread the route but was able to make it through after a short struggle. First special vehicle on the road was the Queen Motorspares Jimco of Greg Harvey and Boy Stone. They had intended racing their new Toyota super truck, but there'd been some development delays. Hot on their heels were John Weir-Smith and Tony George in the O'Hagan's Kopenong Hotel Jimco. Robin Houghton dried the electrical system on the Land Cruiser while Reneke cranked the starter in an attempt to start the engine, but all to no avail. Atang Makachenene and Paul Andre were looking for their first win and set a blistering pace in the Sam Racing Jimco that is fitted with a 3.6-litre supercharged Porsche engine. This was Andre's first time in this race car, in which he will make his debut as a driver at the Nissan Sugar Belt 400 in May. Rashid and Faisal Noble had the bit between their teeth and went on to set the fastest time in the prologue. Finally, 40 minutes after landing in the river, Reneke and Houghton managed to get the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser going again. Dustec Mitsubishi crew Sarel van der Merwe and Nas Leroux also landed in the river and lost a lot of time.
Nelly, we stay in the water. Jump right into the river.
Yeah.
The Toyota is there.
Yeah?
The Toyota is stuck there.
The Toyota is in.
Oh. If it's going to be like that, it'll be fast tomorrow.
Yeah, it will be. What did your stopwatch start?
I didn't put my watch on. I just took it manually.
And what did you get?
We lost about between 30 and 40 seconds, I think, to you.
Just put some new wheels on the car, and one of the wheels fell off during the time trial. So we lost about 10 minutes trying to find the wheel, which Unfortunately, no car hit, but we got the wheel back and we lost 10 minutes or so, but I'm pretty glad to be starting sort of down the field as opposed to in front. It's a lot easier to chase. So it's going to be very interesting tomorrow.
Gary and Bodo Berthold got their M&E glass bat tangled up in a barbed wire fence, damaging a caliper and hub in the process.
Still taking the hub, and you just start getting some petrol. This is bad, eh? This is why we had no brakes at all, eh?
Back at Leeuwpan, Reineke relayed his tale of woe to teammate Shumi van Vuren.
We're out of the race for a win or, say, a position tomorrow, because to start 40 minutes behind the first car, and yet all this dust to keep up tomorrow and all the cars to pass, it's impossible to win.
The starting order for the main race. De Villiers a minute faster than teammate Grobler in the production vehicles, and the Nobles only 12 seconds ahead of the Berthold father and son duo in the specials. Stay with us for more action from the Baberspan 500, brought to you by Bankfin, Ford, Nissan and Toyota. Highlights of the Baberspan 500 are brought to you by Bankfin, Ford, Nissan and Toyota. Early morning at Leeuwpan as crews prepare for a tough day.
Hello, good morning.
The 450-kilometer route for the Baberspan 500 comprised 2 loops of similar length.
We had a good run. We got lost there for about, I think, 20 seconds at the one spot, but I think everybody went wrong there. But we had a good run. We tried to push hard in the beginning because we knew there was going to be a lot of dust today, so we've definitely got an advantage there, although we've got to look for the road, but it looks good so far.
Rashid Noble would be first away in the special vehicle category.
It's taken a year to get this car right. We've been practicing every day, breaking down, but it seems to got the car in order this time. The route is very fast, very fast. Sometimes you run out of speed, you don't even know you're looking for more power.
The Bankfin Off-Road Championship has developed into a major spectacle, and a large crowd turned out for the Baberspan 500. 8 o'clock and the race was underway with De Villiers in only his second full season of off-road racing and Jordan in the Nissan hardbody leading the 85-car field away. The Nobles were next off the line in the Chevy NASCAR V6-powered Aceco. The rest of the field followed in quick succession. Grobler and Leek were a little over-eager. Class S contenders Greg Dowse and Trevor Ormerod were the leading Nashua mobile racing crew and had Woolridge and Skoltheimer a mere 5 seconds behind them. The chase was on, and the Ford racing pair were hell-bent on gaining as much ground on the leading pack in the V8-powered Ranger. While conditions were dry and dusty, there were a few streams and mud holes that teams had to traverse. De Villiers and Jordan set a fast pace in the new-look Nissan hardbody, now with similar running gear to that fitted to the locally built Nissans driven by Gregoire de Mervius and Stefan Peter Hansel in the recent Dakar Rally. Botswana residents Rashid and Faisal Noble held on to the special vehicle lead, but would retire soon after this with technical problems. Multiple champions Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek had gained a place and soon after this would take the lead from Nissan teammate De Villiers. But fan belt and battery problems slowed their pace and dropped them down the field. Father and son team Bodo and Gary Berthold shared the driving in the Nissan V6-powered M&E glass bat and would soon take the lead in the special vehicle category. On board with Woolridge Woolridge and Skolthammer. A near miss with Douse and Ormerod. And the start of problems for all crews. A poorly marked route would result in teams frequently getting lost, resulting in a number of near head-on collisions and the running order changing all the time. The Ford Racing Ranger started overheating early into the race, which was cause for concern. Moreka Ford Caledon 400 winners Greg Douse and Trevor Ormerod were runaway leaders in the new Class S for older design beam axle special vehicles. Introduced for the first time in 2002, the new class attracted 7 entries. Leading contenders for overall victory were Machechenene and Andre in the Jimco, but what they didn't know was that Weir Smith and George in a similar car were rapidly gaining on them after starting 83rd. The first of the Class D entries. Former Class D champions Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo in the Works Nissan Hardbody had to contend with stiff competition from the likes of Mark Corbett and Juan Moore in the highly competitive ex-Delta Motorsport Isuzu, now being campaigned under the Century Property Development's banner. Veterans John Lambert and Pete Hearnes retired from the sport a number of years ago, but following the introduction of Class S, decided to dust off their trusty Digidor Raceco, here being chased hard and passed by Pete Haasbroek and Christo Bosch in the Class D Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. The end of the road for Carlos de Abrio and Steve Cooper in the Toyota Land Cruiser as Class B leaders Bez and Dion Bezuidenhout splash their way through the water in their Cheneth. The Class E battle was expected to be a tough one, and the early leaders were Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham in the diesel-powered Ford Racing Ranger. But behind them it looked like the charge of the Light Brigade as first Nick Harper and Andrew Chalipsky plowed through the slush, followed by Yuri and Andre Duplessis in the BB Auto Nissan. Cheeky move from Cliff Weichelt and Johan Smalberger in the ex-Woolridge N1 4x4 Ford Ranger gave Mark Breckel and Ian Kilburn in the Brasco Refrigeration Raceco an unexpected bath. Another N1 4x4 entry, Jean-Pierre Joubert and Errol Hodgson in the Class E Kia making its debut in the Bankfin Off-Road Championship. William Battersill and Reg Sutton from KwaZulu-Natal would soon have their hands full with the pack bearing down on them. Brandon Harkis and Carlos George started 57th in the bat and were carving their way through the field. They would later retire when a rear trailing arm broke away from its mounting. Teammates Bevan Bertoldt and Colin Howell started 64th after fuel pump problems in the prologue, but they later crashed at high speed without sustaining any injuries. R.P. Reyneke and Robin Houghton were on a mission after starting 66th in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. Despite poor visibility, the experienced pair made light work of the slower crews. Getting lost, and often, was the plight of all teams. Here, the Bertholdts, Woolridge and Douse mill around trying to locate route markers. On board with De Villiers and Jordan as they headed for early retirement. Terminal suspension damage after contact with a hidden rock put paid to their hopes. Suspension damage also forced Schroeder and Peckham in the Ford Racing Ranger into early retirement. One could be forgiven for asking why Woolridge and Skolthammer were running behind their Class E teammates, but it was all about getting lost and losing any advantage gained. 90 minutes into the race, and surprise leaders John Lambert and Pete Hearnes in the Digidor Raceco had taken advantage of crews ahead of them getting lost, but were under pressure from the Ford Racing Ranger of Woolridge and Skolthammer. Corbett and Moore were third overall and Class D leaders in the Century Property Development's Isuzu, and had Greg Harvey and Boy Stone close behind in the Lexus B8 powered Jimco. Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne were well placed in fourth and would later lead briefly before being forced to retire with a broken power steering. Brothers Henry and Maurice Zermatten set a cracking pace in the PlayStation Pajero and lead Class D from Duncan Foss and Mike Griffiths in the second Class D Works Nissan Hardbody. Douse and Ormerod were close behind and comfortable leaders in Class S. Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo trailed their Nissan teammates Foss and Griffiths by 16 seconds, and they were under constant pressure from Pete Haasbroek and Christo Bosch in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. 2 hours and 20 minutes into the Baberspan 500, and Reineke and Houghton were in the lead. From 66th place into the lead in only 140 minutes was a phenomenal feat. Harvey and Stone started in 25th place and were now the leading special vehicle. Third overall and leading in Class D were Grobler and Prinsloo in the Nissan Hardbody, closely followed by teammates Foss and Griffiths and a gaggle of cars. Marcus Taylor and Mark Deschalaine were the new Class B leaders, closely followed by another Class B contender, Rob Gurney in the JRE. Haasbroek and Bosch were well placed in the Land Cruiser and could be counted on for a strong finish. Contact with the Bertolds early into the race damaged the left front shock absorber on the Machichenene Jimco. The Class B brigade were well placed with Gavin Gray and Brian Scott 9th overall in the Powerflow Race Co. Corbett and Moore rounded out the top 10 in the Isuzu, with Woolridge and Skolthammer slowed by overheating problems on the Ford Racing Ranger. Kasikutsia and Okifuri led Class E in the Castrol Toyota Condor, but there were problems for Class F leaders Arthur Tapoch and Galo van der Merwe in the Nissan. Weir Smith and George had made up 69 places in the O'Hagan's Kopenhagen Hotel Jimco. Stay with us for more action from the Baberspan 500, brought to you by Bankfin, Ford, Nissan and Toyota. Highlights of the Baberspan 500 are brought to you by Bankfin, Ford, Nissan and Toyota. Anxiously awaited the arrival of their charges, and the first to arrive were R.P. Reineke and Robin Houghton in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. From 66th place into the lead was nothing short of amazing. But their lead was short-lived as the Woolridge Ranger idled by, and into the lead the chase was on. Weir Smith and George arrived with a bunch of Class B entries in close pursuit. Their performance was also amazing. 83rd to 1st in one lap in the BMW-powered O'Hagan's Kopenhagen Hotel Jimco. Foss and Griffiths passed through without refueling, a strategic move that handed the Nissan team the Class D lead. Pit crew attended to Class B contender Rob Gurney as the Zermatten brothers headed for the pit exit in the PlayStation Pajero.
How's the route going? Yeah, very badly marked in the one section, but we're going great guns. Cars, mint.
The fan belt and battery problem on the Hannes Grobler Nissan persisted, and he would eventually be forced into retirement, but not so Reineke and Houghton, who was still leading in the Toyota. The route marking on lap 2 improved dramatically, and the top 10 running order hardly changed. Neil Woolridge and Kenny Skolthammer were still nursing the overheating Ford Racing Ranger, and a broken power steering would later slow them even more. Henry and Maurice Zermatten had moved up to 3rd overall, but were involved in a titanic battle with Duncan Foss and Pete Haasbroek for Class D honours. Special vehicle leaders John Weir Smith and Tony George had the race firmly in their grasp, but a puncture on the second lap would cost them dearly. Bankfin touring car driver Foss and Griffiths were having their best run ever in the Works Class D Nissan Hardbody. Rob Gurney had Class B under control and was 6th overall in the John Rowe designed JRE. Veteran Kasi Kutsia and co-driver Orki Fourie were 7th overall and Class E leaders in the Castrol Toyota Condor, but had Machichenene and Andre in the Jimco breathing down their necks. 9th placed Mark Corbett and one more were still charging hard in the Class D Century Property Developments Isuzu. Ihu and Jaap de Bruin rounded out the top 10 in the recently acquired ex-Chris Birkin Class E Toyota Hilux, but were being hunted down by Greg Dowse and Trevor Ormerod in the Class S leading Nashua Mobile Race Co. Frit Mulder and brother-in-law Willie Jordan in the V8-powered Jojo Tank Chevrolet grabbed the Class F lead after the service point. The finish of the Baberspan 500, and much anxiety as spectators and service crew awaited the arrival of race winners R.P. Reneke and Robin Houghton in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. Victory eluded the team throughout the 2001 season, but this well-deserved win got their Bankfin Off-Road Championship campaign off to a wonderful start. Reneke has won the Baberspan 500 6 times before, and co-driver Houghton had only one win in 1996, but this victory and their charge from 66th place will be remembered for years to come. The winner's cap for a young fan. Concerned Ford Racing Pit crew awaited the arrival of Neil Woolridge and Kenny Spolthammer, who had nursed the overheating Ford Racing Ranger throughout the event.
I thought you guys would carry it on, because I said no, you're 2 minutes behind. The power steering was miffed us.
Pete Haasbroek and Christo Bosch stormed through from the back of the Class D field to finish 3rd overall and 1st in Class D in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser, with Henry and Maurice Sir Martin only seconds behind in the PlayStation Pajero. A good start to the season for the Tusker Farmers. Quad racer Vickers van Deventer had a good time. A fine performance from the Zamatin brothers was rewarded with 4th overall in the production vehicle category and 2nd in Class D.
Today's race was just about who got lost the least. That's all it was. There we go.
Ons het goed gery. Ons het die eerste ronde was ons 4de vir 'n baie lang tyd. En toe het ons so 20 km hier vanaf van die watergat. Het ons daar het hy gevrek en toe is die battery dood. Daar het ek so 10 meter gewag toe 'n Land Rover ons uit aan die brand gesleep. Het toe gekom en toe ons 'n nuwe battery sit af. Toe ons 9 in ons klas. En ek wen tweede ronde het goed.
A debut win in Class E for the Castrol Toyota Condor of Kasi Kutsia and Okifuri, and 3 class wins for the Castrol Toyota team.
From the start of it, I said I'll be happy if I got a 2nd or 3rd spot. We're looking for the championship points at the end of the year, and we're quite surprised actually coming in with 1st in Class E, and it was a tough event.
Despite a broken front shock absorber, Machegenene and Andre persevered right to the finish, but almost threw away their lead when they wrong slotted within sight of the finish. A debut win as a driver for Atang Machegenene and as co-driver for rookie Paul Andre in the Sam Racing Gymco. John Weir-Smith and Tony George blew their chances after a close encounter with a tree, and the resulting puncture cost them valuable time. This wrong slot didn't help their cause either. The O'Hagan's Kopenhagen Hotel Gymco performed faultlessly throughout the race.
Yeah, you can drive. It's good. Well done.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it. But given the circumstances, I think John also drove very well. It's the beginning of the season. There's 7 more races to go. We need to see each other every race, like in this position.
It's going to be a tough championship.
Greg Dowse and Trevor Ormerod powered their Nashua Mobile Race Co to 3rd overall in the special vehicle category and won the new Class S.
Very happy to be winner and 3rd overall, which is good for the points. It's a nice way to start the season and a nice way to start Class S.
Gavin Gray and Brian Scott won Class B in the Powerflow Race Co and finished 4th overall in the special vehicle category.
The competition competition is very, very fierce in Class B. Last year we had there was just a couple of us running, and this year we've seen a large contingent from Natal come up, and we've seen a lot of new cars change hands, and it looks like it's going to be a force to be reckoned with for 2002.
Frik Mulder and Billy Jordan were the inaugural winners of Class F for unlimited two-wheel drive trucks.
Previously, I had to compete against the four-wheel drives in the T class, and that's not always nice competing in a two-wheel drive against the four-wheel drives. And I think there's quite a few cars out there that can enter in this new class now, which would be to the benefit of off-road racing as a whole.
The top 10 production vehicles, a long overdue win for Reineke and Houghton, and 3 class wins for the Castrol Toyota team.
It was my lucky day, and we had a quite clean run today. No problems on the car. We had a couple of wrong slots, and that was that. But we were leading before halfway through the race, and we kept our lead all the way, and everything just went well for us today.
The top 10 special vehicles, a debut win for Machagenene and Andre, and 2 Class S and 4 Class B cars in the top 10.
And I'm very pleased with myself, my crew, my mechanic, everybody else who's here with us, my navigator here, and my son who came for the first race with us. I think it's a blessing that he came.
Thank you. It's our first time out, my first time ever in a racing car, first time as navigator. Magnificent. The tongue drove impeccable. If we hadn't had our problems, I think we would have come in first overall. Fantastic day. Thanks to the organisers. Great. Thank you. Cheers.
Highlights of the Baberspan 500 round.